Happy Canada Day from Great Northern Discussions, and just here today with a special message for everyone. We're leaving. Yeah, Alberta's out. We've had enough. It's been a great run, but we're gone. In all seriousness, I wanted to deliver this message today regarding Alberta independence. And anybody who follows the show, not a big guy by any means or large fellow, physically maybe, but not a massive show just yet. However, on the show, I have given my stance on the referendum. And I have said before that I feel like the referendum needs to happen to put the country on notice so they could understand why Alberta feels the way it does. I've now moved past that. It took me one meeting, one town hall. I feel like I was already in there anyway, but it took me one meeting, town hall with the guys at Alberta Prosperity Project and what they got going there to try to at least get this to a referendum question and then some seceding from Canada. I'm going to tell you, I think you really need to understand the history first on how we got here and then why I think it works. And I call myself a Canadian. I am a Canadian, but I'm also Albertan, right? So here you need to understand some of the history. And so if you want to go back to all the way to 1867, when Canada became Canada, I talked a bit about this with Jasmine Lane on one of our episodes. You should check it out. It's fantastic. However, in 1867, you had Nova Scotia and New Brunswick as colonies, and they were going to merge with the province of Canada at the time, which was Ontario and Quebec. So Ontario and Quebec, and then we had Nova Scotia and New Brunswick come together, and that was under the Constitution Act, rather, which made Canada Canada. 1867. Fast forward 1905, and it was the West turn to come in. And at the time, there was Sir Frederick Haltane, who was a premier in the Northwest Territories, and he suggested, "Hey, why doesn't not Calgary, Alberta? Sorry, why doesn't Alberta and Saskatchewan enter as one province? And we're going to call it Buffalo." And that, of course, Sir Wilfrid Laurier did not like that. And so, because it was about the balance of power and control over the West and on the votes, and it was too much of a large populace, so he poo-pooed that. He did not like that, and that's where the term Laurentian elites was actually born, or Western alienation. They didn't like that. Regardless, Saskatchewan became Saskatchewan, Alberta became Alberta, and then we moved forward together. At the time, Saskatchewan was more of an economic driver. And it wasn't until, well, the first strike or discovery of oil in Alberta was 1914, and that was Imperial Oil. Now, it wasn't produced, it was a discovery. It wasn't until 1947, which is very famous here. You might know Leduc 1. 1947 was drilled. It was drilled by a guy. I think it's a fantastic story. I've actually talked to his son, but it was drilled by a guy named Vern Dryhole Hunter. And they called him Dryhole, not for funnier pervert reasons like you're thinking of, but they called him Dryhole because he kept drilling dusters, and dusters being wells that didn't have oil. He couldn't produce any oil. I think he drilled like 16. If you look it up, he drilled 16 in a row, and wasn't hitting anything. And then 1947. February 13th, 1947, boom, strikes oil. Put Alberta on the map, produced it, got it to surface, and the rest is history, really. We have been, I don't want to say we've had Canada on our back since then, but we've been a major contributor to the GDP, as I think most people are aware. So that's how we got here. But what is driving some of the anger or the sentiment for wanting to leave Canada is, first of all, let's just talk energy. Okay, we have for the last 10 years had prime ministers too now who are run on ideology, and whatever camp you sit in, you can make an argument for either one. Okay, but this guy, Mark Carney, is about climate first. He was elected to fight Donald Trump, bad orange man, as an economist. But what you got was the biggest global green economic driver that the planet has ever seen. And if you're on the other side saying, well, isn't that a good thing? In theory, it is. However, he stands to benefit greater than anyone out there right now. So let's just talk about some of the policies that it's essentially a war on oil, right? This is what it's been. So some of these policies, the most recent policy would be Bill C5, and it's called the Building Canada Act. And what it's supposed to do is fast track. It gives them sweeping powers to fast track or approve programs. But what programs do you think are going to get approved? That brings us to Bill C-69 first, right? So Bill C-69, actually, let's go back further. The National Energy Board was established in 1959, and it was a panel of energy experts, geologists, engineers, lawyers. That was an expert quasi-judicial panel that was to be insulated from political influence. And that was the point of the National Energy Board, to approve projects by people who understand them. Justin Trudeau got in, he blew that up. He blew up the program. And now what we've got is the Canada Energy Regulator, who is the governing body. But you see what's happening here? It's just a tie to government, right? Before, it was not run by government. It was private, National Energy Board, a private governing body outside of political influence. And now you've got government control. And so C5, the bill, will give them sweeping powers to approve projects. Sounds great in theory, and this is also why the Conservatives had no choice to jump on this and vote for it. You have to, because it looks like then you're against building or approving projects. But embedded in there is sweeping powers for only a few people in that cabinet. Who do you think? Who do you think is going to be making those calls? The Echo Warriors and Stephen Guilbeault, Mark Harney. And what projects are going to get approved? What projects are going to get approved? Green projects. And I'm not here to say I'm against green. No one in our sector is against the green projects. The problem is that's all they're going to approve. And Bill C-69, which really made it super onerous for people to get approved, and it just took years. Perfect example right now would be LNG Canada just came online. The first tanker just hit the water like the other day. And that took 15 years. Took 15 years. Much too long. The United States has built 10 in the last 10 years, right? So it just shows you the hypocrisy there in that bill. Anyway, now it's giving them sweeping powers. And so these green projects are going to get approved. And who stands to benefit from that? Brookfield, right? It's Brookfield. I mean, he can say he stepped away. I mean, isn't this what the Liberals didn't want? Like, you guys attack Trump all the time for having all these high and ties to wealth and his rich buddies. What do you think he just voted in? What do you think we just got here? What do you think is going to get approved? Why don't you look up a company called Entropy? And I got buddies there, and I hate it. I can't. I don't hate that they're there. I think it's great stuff. It's a carbon capture company. Brookfield gave them $300 million. $300 million. Now that's like an R&D phase type company. They've got three. I don't want to get into the details of the company. You can look it up. But that's just one example. Brookfield's tentacles are everywhere, and so these projects are going to be the ones getting approved. Here's some other. I've been rambling on energy policy. Here's another one. C-48. Which is a moratorium on tanker bans. Fine. So they ban tankers on the West Coast because of sensitive marine life. Makes sense, kind of, with the sea life in there. It's along a certain stretch, and you can only carry up to a maximum of 12,500 tons of crude or oil, persistent oil. Okay. Sure. So we're limited as to what we can ship out, and we want to save the wildlife. What do you think's coming in on the East Coast? Mega super carriers every day. In fact, I looked at the schedule before. You can look it up too. Go to vesselfinder.com. Look at the carriers coming in. Again, no fault of their own, but I suppose the sea life on the East Coast doesn't mean as much as the orcas and Haida Gwaii and Trudeau's old stomping grounds. It's just hypocrisy, right? The point is, it's hypocrisy that we can bring it in from dictator countries, but we can't send it out. We're sending some out. Again, I'm still not saying we're not sending it out. Some is getting out because Trudeau did buy that pipeline for 5 times the cost. Anyway, these are just some of the policies that upset the West. Another one, emissions cap. You put an emissions cap. If you go to my show, I've talked to a couple of CEOs about what the emissions cap is going to do to the industry. It is a cap on production. You can say it isn't, but it is. C50, C50 is another one. Look that one up. That's Justin's, right? That's the Just Transition Act. That's the Sustainable Jobs Act, whatever it is. It's just, that's going to hurt places like Newfoundland. You got 20,000 people involved in the energy sector. Anyway, those are just policies there. Then you've got equalization. A lot of people don't understand how equalization works, and I understand. There's only a couple comments on some posts here and there that say it's not like we write a check to provinces. Everybody, not everybody knows it, but it's collected via taxes, and Alberta has the highest earners per capita. Okay, we have the highest earners, therefore we contribute more. We never get money back. So it goes into Ottawa, collected via taxes, and it gets distributed to the have-nots. Schedule's out for this year. Quebec is slated to get $13.6 billion again. And I've mentioned it in some other shows. I don't care that places get equalization. I mean, we are Canadians after all. We want to lift each other up, but again, it's the West, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, who gets $0. We don't want government handouts, but we get zero. The rest of the country gets money. And then you continue to block pipelines. This is where the sentiment comes from. It's like, we want this for the betterment of Canada. Get to markets. Like, we could get the entire East off of Saudi Arabian, Russian, Marshall Islands, Philippines, all the oil that's coming in on the East Coast. We could get them off, but again, it's just another example. This equalization. So we could keep that money. We can keep our taxes. In fact, we can get rid of income taxes here in Alberta. Wouldn't that be nice? I do know that there's a fiscal budget coming out very, very soon from Alberta Prosperity Project, and you can follow those guys, and Jeffrey Rath, Mitch Sylvester, Dr. Dennis Modry, follow those guys just to get informed. And, in terms of can we make it go? And there's a lot of objection beaters. Well, hey, we'll become landlocked. Well, will we? I mean, aren't we already landlocked? Government aside, geographically, we're landlocked. That's the way it works. We've got bodies, land around us. There's no ports. We have to go to port. That's just the way it is. But with the current government, of course we're landlocked. They're not going to be approving unless it's decarbonized oil or unless it's in the national interest of Canada and all these other premiers. Premiers have to be on board in the national interest. Well, what do you think is going to become national interest? And who do you think is going to be approving stuff? It's going to be all the green projects. I highly, highly doubt they're going to be putting energy, oil and gas at front of mind. But anyway, that's just where I'm at. I think we need to get out on our own. Another objection that people will say is, well, we'll take your passports away and you won't be Canadian anymore. Well, how many people do you know or friends that move to the States and work and have dual? We'll just be dual. The country of Alberta, and we're Canadian. I mean, I'm Canadian at my core. Trust me, this actually pains me to get here and talk like this, but I see no path forward anymore as a province within Canada. And so I think we can wield that stick We have everything that the world wants right here in Alberta, including beef, or our ag. They're coming after farmers as well. Like it's just about government control, and you know what? That's how we live out here. We want less government. We keep electing people back in who want more government. It's like you want them to control your life. We don't get it. I don't get it here. A lot of us don't get it. It's like you want this government controlling your life. Well, we don't like that here. We like to work hard. Put your head down, work hard, make hay, and stay the F out of my business. That's what we like. Who do you think fought back the hardest during the COVID times? Where'd the convoys start? Right? We're a target because we fight back the hardest. Um, I should have said pandemic. That'll probably get bleeped out. But, um, we were the least locked down during that time. And then until Kenny folded at the end. Um, and we had a lot of counterparts that worked down in Texas during those times too. And we were hearing things are great. What are you guys doing? It's business as usual during the pandemic. And, meanwhile, we had kids suffering. And anyway, I don't want to turn it into one of those posts about that. But regardless, we can have a go. We can keep our money. We can be tax free, no income tax. Our APP. Set aside a military budget again. The guys, I'm going to get them I'm going to get them in on the show, but I never thought I would say this until I went to that town hall, and so I urge everybody, because I was half in the water anyway. I think I told you that I was half in the water. Everybody needs to go to an Alberta Prosperity Project town hall and just sit and listen. And you know what? Everybody in there, they're already Danielle Smith voters. We all support her because we know she has Alberta's interests. And I know she gets slagged by a ton of people on the other side too. And that's fine. That's politics. But we all support Danielle because we believe she's looking after Albertans. And so this is a separate movement to get that referendum to let us vote on it. And so you have to go to the website. You got to become a member. It's $40 for 3 years, or you can put 20 or 10, whatever it is. But become a member. There's lots of FAQs on there. I flipped, and I see no path forward. And then I actually think we could become Dubai or Monaco, our country. And I didn't address the landlock. I mean, we already go sell 90% of our exports go to America anyway. So we can do more pipelines down south. We can still go out to Washington. You still have ports on that side. Perhaps there's paths forward with other provinces because then we're a separate country, right? And also, if Canada wants to say we're not going to recognize you as a country, well, I know who would recognize us as a country: the United States, right? And then we're a country. It's over. And then if you want to drive anything across our province, well, we're just going to smack tariffs on you. There are sticks we can wield, and you know what? These guys are sharp cookies that are pushing to have this question on the referendum. So please get informed. Not the best Canada Day message, but it can be. We'll have our own Alberta Day message in the future. Anyway, take care. Stay informed.